So, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. I'm Jan Kennis. I'll be hosting the event together with my colleagues Laura and Koen. Will present themselves in a minute when they also present part of the presentation for you today. I will be managing Accelerate as a call, so I'll be your main contact point, supported by Laura, of course, in all the communications. And for today, we have foreseen our agenda for you. We will introduce Vlieg as an organization and Accelerate as a call. We will, of course, go into the modalities of this call, how this is built up, and what you need to do to, of course, submit a project. And then in the end, we will also discuss a little bit about the teams, the 3 teams that have been chosen and how they are built up and how they are organized. There will be time for questions and answers after the call and modalities part and after the teams part of the presentation. For the first part of the presentation, I will give the floor to Koen, who will then also present himself. Koen, welcome.
Okay, thank you, Jan. My name is Koen de Koster. I'm head of strategy and operations at Vlieg. And I'm extremely pleased and also proud to be presenting our new program, Accelerate, today. Now, for those of you that are new to Vlieg, I really have to say a few words about what Vlieg is as an organization. So Vlieg, basically, we're the leading platform for all Flemish higher education institutes to collaborate in the context of global sustainable development, and we're also the primary funding body for partnerships and scholarships. So that means that as part of our mandate, we develop programs, launch calls, select projects, and oversee them, both projects and scholarships. Now we do all this, of course, in the framework of the Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals, which are obviously all known to all of you, and very important, with also a particular role for science in that UN 2030 global agenda. Next slide. So for Vlieg, using this 2030 agenda as an international orientation framework, and in light of the major global challenges ahead of us, we see that higher education institutes are challenged to shape their students into global citizens who are both critical and resilient in life. And at the same time, of course, universities and universities of applied sciences play a key role in Agenda 2030 through research and innovation and education in the search for sustainable answers to global and local challenges. Now, Vlieg as an organization, we basically work on 2 tracks. An individual track and an institutional track. So we work with scholarships and partnerships, where in the scholarships we aim to create agents of change, and through our funding and support for partnerships, we try to strengthen institutions in becoming real drivers of change through mutual capacity development. Voila, we can go to the next slide. Well, what makes us different from many other funders is, of course, this alignment to Agenda 2030 and also this incorporation of the principle behind this agenda, because Agenda 2030 is, of course, much more than ticking the box and saying to which SDG you align. There are also some underlying principles. A first one is the Leave No One Behind principles. Principle, and we translated it in focusing our actions, the countries we work with, the institutions we work with, the people we work with, by taking Leave No One Behind into account. So focusing on those at risk of being left behind. Other principles are interconnectedness, which obviously link with multidisciplinarity, involving different disciplines to tackle challenges. So also working with different institutions. And last but not least, multi-stakeholder partnerships in which we try to engage with non-academic actors to get a better impact of our actions. Voila, and that's important because in everything that Vlir UOS does, because we're not your average research funder, we focus both on academic and societal impact. So academic impact, of course, through academic capacity building, and so societal impact through by motivating our projects and our stakeholders to create the conditions for the uptake of new knowledge and applications in policies and practices in society. So that's I would say one of the things that makes us well, more or less unique is this focus on societal impact of higher education and of research. Okay, so then this brings us to our new program Accelerate, which is actually part of a broader program called Bridging Science Society. This program is entirely new for Vlir UOS, and so Accelerate is a part of it. With Bridging Science Society as a program, we try to develop collective responses as a community, I would say, to both emerging opportunities and emergencies. The big difference between this program and other programs we found is that here the initiative is taken by third parties or by the Vlir UOS community itself. So it doesn't work with completely open calls where teams and project ideas come from those that apply, but here the ideas come from third parties or from the Vlir UOS community itself. The idea behind Bridging Science Society is, of course, to strengthen connections within, but also beyond the Vlir UOS community. That's, of course, critical to facilitate collective learning trajectories within and beyond our community, facilitating multi-stakeholder partnerships, and organizing scientific policy support in the field of sustainable development. More specifically, what are the things we do under this program? We have an important policy support program for our donor DGD, where 3 academic groups are supporting our government in 3 teams. We have this Accelerate project, and we're almost there at the actual introduction of Accelerate. And we also use it to engage in other external partnerships or other initiatives. For example, our participation in Forward Fest, the very new project we will have in Ethiopia called Salam on transitional justice and human rights, and also some other initiatives in the pipeline, for example, a program in Morocco on green economy, and potentially in the future also a new initiative with Palestine. But these last 2 are still to be confirmed, I would say. Now, this brings us to Accelerate as part of the Bridging Science Society program. Accelerate is basically all about connecting, deepening, widening, and mobilizing innovative knowledge within our Vlir UOS community, but also beyond. And I will tell you a bit more about what we mean with beyond. The idea is that we want to create make start with it, I would say, with 3 networks around strategic teams for Vlir UOS, but also for our community. The teams you can see here, it's accelerating diversity, equity, and inclusion, accelerating uptake, use, and impact, and accelerating higher education management. Now, for all of these teams, and Jan will explain this in more detail later on, we have developed terms of reference, which portray a bit where we are in these teams, what already exists, what our ambitions are, what the target groups are, etc. Heads up, these terms of reference may seem very ambitious, but I mean, we are always ambitious. But this should be considered as a starting point because the whole idea behind Accelerate is to co-create these the eventual projects together, I would say. Now, as mentioned, these three teams are strategic, are crucial for all of us. These are teams we see in our project we often struggle with. Things, expectations are unclear. Stakeholders and colleagues in project often do not have the necessary tools and sometimes skills to actually deal with these teams. Or we see that sometimes in our portfolio, certain skill developments are just lacking. And these three projects that we will have will be at least a partial answer to the challenges we see around these teams. And so the idea is to strengthen these teams in the Vlir EOS community and at all levels. So not only at the level of Vlir EOS and Vlir EOS policy, but also within our portfolio, within our projects, helping our projects in better engaging with these teams and having a stronger impact. Okay. Now, as you can read in our call and in the terms of reference, as always, we are very ambitious, but it's important to also consider this three project as a first step. That's at least how we see it. And so let's say as pilots, creating emerging networks or communities of practice with a vision beyond 2027. So we really hope that this is a first step in what will be, beyond any doubt, a very interesting and inspiring journey with our community. For us, the program is quite innovative in the setup and the governance because we will develop this project in co-creation together with Vlir EOS, but also within a broad consortium of experts of different institutions. And then the second point, Accelerate project will be multi-institutional, meaning that it will not only involve a Flemish higher education institute and a partner higher education institute, but it will involve a much broader institution of higher education institutes and other stakeholders in Flanders and in partner countries. And this is, of course, crucial for us because this is all about connecting all available expertise to make this work. And as I mentioned, so we will start with a small core group in the first phase, let's say, and the idea is to develop a broader consortium. Voilà, and then I just want to go to the last point, and it's about the potential role of ARES, our French-speaking counterpart in Belgium, and the Institute of Tropical Medicine. But I would say these are just examples. We have invited these two organizations to also join Accelerate, also with their, I would say, their time as a kind of a in-kind contribution to Accelerate, or even with budget to actually join this project and make it bigger. But also beyond ARES and ITM, we are looking for further collaboration with other actors to make this project bigger and to increase the budget, I would say. As you have all, without any doubt, read in the call, that every team will have also a part on training. There we also are looking at how can we link Accelerate with all other projects we're running, so that, for example, if staff from other projects are joining in the training, that they can also financially contribute to Accelerate. So all in all, the Accelerate budget is indeed a starting point because we want to go beyond 2027, but also because we expect that it will grow throughout time, and Vlir EOS will also facilitate in that process. That was it for me.
Yes.
And then I would like to give the floor to Laura, who will continue the presentation. Laura?
Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Oasse. I'm program manager at Vlir EOS. And I would like to go through the modalities and the particularities of this new project type. First element is that, well, one of the inherent features of Accelerate is that the projects will work on 3 levels or 3 pillars, and these are operational approaches needed for the projects to realize their objectives. The first one is policy development. And here we mean developing policies supported by studies, benchmarks, advice notes. These are just some examples, but the focus here is on the actual development of a policy. The second pillar, there we focus more on the actual translation of policy into practice, so policy implementation. This can be in the form of instruments or knowledge products such as action plans or toolboxes, manuals. And then the third pillar is capacity building through training or network events. So that's so that during these trainings or network moments, the tools developed in the second pillar can be used. The terms of references for the 3 strategic teams provide more information on how these 3 pillars could be developed. And depending on the specific team, a more important focus might be placed on 1 or 2 of the 3 pillars, but overall, all the pillars need to be covered in every Accelerate project. Another particularity, I would say, of this project type, Koen mentioned it already, but for this we have there is a primary target group to take into account, a primary beneficiary group. The first one is Vlir UOS itself. So here we refer to the board members, the ECOs and the HEOs of the institutions, but also us as a team, as an organization, and for example, also the selection commission. The second group of beneficiaries is more on institutional level, I would say. So here we refer to the higher education and science institutions, both in Flanders and in the partner countries. And the third group of beneficiaries is more on individual level. So here we refer to the Vlir UOS community as a whole. So the individual promoters, researchers, lecturers, team members, professional, but even supporting staff and students. So the Vlir UOS and its broader community is considered the first beneficiaries of Accelerate, but obviously the benefits are mutual, and as an outcome, Accelerate would lead to a community of practices where networking and training activities are open to all Vlir UOS projects and beyond. So the Accelerate project should be organized both in Belgium and in 1 or more of the Vlir UOS countries. And here we refer to the 17 project countries, but also to the 12 scholarship countries. So I would say, geographic range is a bit wider. And recently, Mali has also been added in the list of scholarship countries. So Mali is also eligible as a partner country. Regarding the eligibility of the teams itself, this is maybe a little bit in line with the other project types. So we look at the Flemish promoters, both of could be from Flemish universities or universities of applied science and arts. Also in line with other project types is that it has to be submitted through an ECOS or GEO for the quality control and for check of internal regulations related to the Flemish promotership. Regarding the partner promoter, so the promoter there has to be employed at a recognized higher education institution or a national public not-for-profit research institution located obviously in one of the Vlir UOS countries. Regarding the budget, so the available budget overall for this call is 600,000 euros. And since there are 3 teams or 3 projects that need to be selected, the budget per project would be 200,000 euros maximum for a duration of 23 months. And so of these 32 months, 8 months are for the inception phase, and then 24 months for the full implementation phase. It's just an indicative maximum of 40,000 euros that we set for the inception phase that could be budgeted. Koen already mentioned it, but this 32 months period is considered as a pilot phase. On the longer term, the aim is to further develop the project and to create matching funds with other actors, ITM, RS, or other European sister organizations, and in this case, participation from experts is possible, and co-funding in kind or in finance would be expected. Regarding the budget modalities for your project proposal, for the concept note stage, there we request that you indicate this that you indicate how many days per pillar that will be spent, and for each day 1,000 euros can be reserved. And this amount is all in, so it covers all expenses, including overhead or coordination costs. And a summary of the expenses will be asked afterwards to verify and justify these expenses. But it's important to note that for the fully fledged proposal, the 1,000 euro per day can still be indicated for the first 2 pillars, so for policy development and policy implementation. But for the 3rd pillar, capacity building and network, there are more, let's say, classic EUR's budgeting in line with ITP should be followed. So let's go through the crucial dates to keep in mind for now. So today, 23rd of May, we're having the first information session online. On May 30th, so next week, Thursday, in live or in-person matchmaking will take place in Brussels, where more focus will be laid on the actual team. So it will be more focused on the content. On June 1st, an online platform, the online platform will be accessible. So you can already inform yourself on the requirements for the proposal through the formats that are already available in the call and on our website. But submission is required through the tool, and this tool will be available starting June 1st. We will also develop a frequently asked question based on the question that will be raised in this information session and in a matchmaking session, but even questions that you raise afterwards through email to us. So we will make an overview of the questions that still live in the community by June 14th latest. And then also important to keep in mind is the deadline for the submission, which is October 1st. I would like also to highlight a bit these 2 stage procedures. So there are 2 stages. First, the concept note stage, and then the fully fledged. In the concept note, we expect you to present the members of the core group to already have a first reflection on the terms of references on your team, and also outline the approach that you want to follow for the inception phase. And so interested parties are invited to submit this concept note, and then 1 proposal per team will be selected, at least on the condition that there is 1 project proposal that meets the eligibility criteria and is of sufficient high quality. The concept note that is selected will then start the 8-month inception phase. And there you have the time and the resources to translate the broad terms of references into a more specific project scope with key objectives and priorities, a clear action plan. And in this 8-month period, you also have more time to mobilize the necessary experts in a broad consortium, and to more operationalize the project in exchange with Vlir as the main beneficiary. Voilà, so that's for the second stage. Well, regarding the format, so as I just said before, the tool that you have to use to submit will be open starting June 1st, but please already have a look at the formats that are available. So on one hand, there is a Word document, which includes the guiding questions for your narrative, for the narrative section. And all the information that is in the format has to be included in the submission tool. In addition, there's also an Annex 1, a spreadsheet available. This is an Excel format used for the input of activities and budget per outcome during the inception phase, and also for information on the team members. And this Excel sheet has to be uploaded in the submission tool. Proposal is only complete if this is also added. So that's quite important. And then other mandatory annexes are the CVs for both the Flemish and the partner promoter. And this can be through an ORCID code, but also through an online link, for example, through LinkedIn. And if not available online, you can also submit a short CV in a PDF format. And we also require an endorsement letter of the partner promoter stating that the partner promoter is actually employed at the partner institution, and that the institution supports the project. And then maybe also important, although the deadline is October 1st, it's good to know that submissions or proposal are only considered when submitted through the tool. And as I said before, the project has to include at least one Flemish promoter, either from a University of Applied Arts and Science, and one partner promoter. The submission has to go through the ICOS and or GEOD, so that depends a bit on the association. And that is required to have a quality check and to check the eligibility of the Flemish promoter. And again, the deadline is October 1st. But it's always good to check with your GEO and ICOS if there are other internal deadlines to take into account. And before ending and opening a Q&A, a small overview. So the concept note, the deadline for the submission is October 1st. Then an assessment of all the proposal will be conducted in November. So an assessment of your proposal, of the core group, and then the one that is selected, the contracting can then take place shortly after in December or January 2025. But that means that you can already start your activities and start also working on your fully fledged proposal that has to be submitted in May 25. Then for this fully fledged proposal, there we don't really talk about a selection process anymore, rather of I would say a validation process where the fully fledged proposals are assessed and the outcome can be, we gave it color, so either green, meaning you can fully start immediately, or orange, meaning you can start, but minor adjustments are required and has to be made by the first reporting cycle. And another outcome is red, meaning there are some minor adjustments or corrections that has to be made before you can actually start. And actually starting or the full implementation can take place as of September 25th. And the project has to end by August 2027. Voilà. Now we want to leave room for some question. I saw that there were some in the chat, but I invite Jan and Koen to see if there are questions from the chat that we still need to address here. But otherwise, we also invite you to unmute yourself, maybe put your camera on, and to address your question to us. So feel free to indicate if something was unclear or if you want more details on specific elements.
Yeah, maybe also use your hand raising sign if you want to ask a question. Koen has some follow-up of the chat, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to react to the last question. There are a lot of questions about who can be involved, the development of a core group, the development of a consortium, etc. So I will try to answer a bit these different questions. But maybe the question from, I don't know who it was, from Rita Bloom is actually very relevant. The whole idea of the matchmaking session is we want to create very broad and diverse groups of experts and people motivated to work around this team. And you know, in general, when Vlir Uos launches a call, we receive massive amounts of proposals. Here, the idea is not so much on competition, but more on collaboration. So I'm exaggerating a little bit, but in an ideal scenario, everybody here would just work together in one proposal, and because that's the focus of Bridging Science Society. It's about collaboration and working together towards a goal. So that's why we are starting with, so this is the general information session. Then during a first matchmaking, which will be live in Brussels, we will bring people together and we will organize separate sessions around the different teams to have some more depths in describing the teams and what the ambitions are, etc. But also for you to connect with each other and to see, okay, who is also interested in this team, and can I join up with this person. So the whole idea of the matchmaking is to facilitate collaboration among you. And then in a later stage, we will see what follow-up moments need to be created, for example, through online sessions. Now, in the first phase, when you just have to develop a first concept node, the minimum required is that you have a small core grouping representing different higher education institutes in Flanders, and at least one higher education institute in a partner country. And well, that's a starting point. It can already be broader at that point, but in view of later contracting, that would be the basic setup, I would say. And then probably it will already be a bit broader at that stage, but also once we selected the concept nodes, the idea is that this consortium development will continue, and that consortia will also involve other organizations, a diversity of organizations, and voila, that's the basic idea. We're also curious to see how it goes. Yeah. Back to you, Laura.
I see two people raise their hands. I cannot read the full name, but Massimiliano, I invite you to feel free to ask your question.
Can you hear me and see me, maybe?
Yes.
Sorry, I joined the session very late, so you might have discussed about this. And I'm from the Africa Museum, and that's a federal scientific institution. It's not Flemish. And I was wondering if I guess you need a coordinator in the consortium, is it? So as a federal scientific institution, can I coordinate a consortium, or I will have to associate with the Flemish institution so that the Flemish institution can lead the consortium?
The last option is the correct one. Yes.
The correct one. Okay.
Yes.
So the Flemish institution will need to be the coordinator.
Yeah. So you will need to join a group. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clear enough. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Then I see Jean-Pierre.
Yes, you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay, thank you. I have two questions. I imagine that this is also, is it for policies regarding global engagement in Flanders and in Belgium and in our higher education institutions, or are we aiming here for policies in our partner countries? So that's one question. And secondly, the ultimate deliverable, because when I hear a consortium multidisciplinary, that's very interesting. I think policies is the ultimate goal for everything we're doing, that things get into in practice. But then I'm a little bit, if it's not, do we have concrete, will we have concrete deliverables that we will say this Accelerate project or program will has an ultimate goal that this policy is developed or this policy is implemented in X countries? Is that the goal, or question, because it's new for me? I find it very intriguing because the last years I'm more and more interested in the implementation part, because that's the end of the day. It's that what's necessary and not only the research. And this could be an answer to that. So 2 questions. Over.
If I can take the question, Jan. Thank you for that question, Jean-Pierre. Well, the whole idea, so this is not a call for projects within these teams, which would, by the way, be a very interesting idea, I would say. But it's more, actually the target group of this project is the Vlir community. So when we talk about developing policies, it's also about helping the Vlir community and also Vlir in developing a policy on, let's say, ethical research or on diversity and inclusion in the Vlir community. And then the policy implementation can also relates to what we do as a community. And the training part is focused more on individuals and institutions within and beyond our community. Yeah. I hope that's clear, Jean-Pierre.
And maybe I can add, Koen, I think, Jean-Pierre, your question was also, is it also to implement policies in our institutions in Flanders? I would say if the work that's being done within Accelerate generates ideas and repercussions that could be interesting for policies of Flemish institutions, that of course that would be allowed. Let's say it is maybe not the first goal, but of course it would be a very nice outcome of an Accelerate project that a policy in a Flemish institution is also positively influenced. For instance, in things that deal with the cooperation with the South or other topics. So I would say that is certainly also would be something to look out for. And of course, in terms of your second question, so concrete, let's say, outcomes, these will be defined within the 3 pillars. So the 3 pillars are to be taken into account, as Koen said, in all the projects. But of course, every project can define, and we will expect the project in the end to define a clear outcome also so on the policy pillar. So the project will define where they put the emphasis and what type of things they will do. But yes, we will ask for some kind of clear output also at the policy level, depending on the choice in the end that has been made by the project teams.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's for the Vlir, the ultimate goal, apparently for the Accelerate, is the Vlir committee itself. It's not our partner countries to implement or stimulate policies which at the moment don't take off. That's not the aim.
Partly in the end, let's say also, of course, the policies can be implemented in partner institutions. So the first aim is indeed to implement a policy at the level of the Vlir community. But again, like I said, of course, in the Flemish part, that also accounts for the partner part. Part of these policies will be very interesting also for the partner institutions themselves and for the Flemish institutions themselves. So I would say if you make a policy that would be useful for Vlir, I think part of that policy can also be translated towards the policies of the institutions. Whether we really want it at country level, that's still another level that might be still a next step to go.
But maybe just to make it more explicit, so Jean-Pierre, because you referred, of course, to the second topic around uptake and getting research into policy and practice, there especially, of course, we want to have some tool development at our level, but of course the aim is to help our community, and that means can imply Flemish academic, but of course also our partners in acquiring the skills, knowledge, and tools to become better at translating research into policy and practice. Can involve individual skill development, could also involve how do you work on this topic at an institutional level? How do you set up a tech transfer office? Things like that. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mark Hovaerts, feel free to ask your question.
Yes. Also with the last response, my questions was about involving other organizations. Is it limited to the Belgian context? But at the same time, how can you involve external organizations when we focus on the Vleruës community?
Well, I will give the example of ITM and ARES, but it can also involve many other organizations who think that these topics in the context of higher education is important and want to join a network, investigate and explore this topic further, join training activities, etc. That's the basic idea.
But will they do it if they know it's so, they will not have themselves some output if it is focused on the Vleruës community? I mean, for example, RDM, research data management, is something that is there is a lot of expertise worldwide. So it is interesting to involve a lot of partners in that, but at the same time, how is that related to the concept of the Vleruës community then?
Yeah, well, it's within and beyond the Vleruës community, but I think that's already quite detailed question. I think once we go into the terms of reference in the specific teams today, but especially during the matchmaking, I think that will become much clearer, Mark. So if you can wait till I'm not sure whether you will join the matchmaking.
I'm not completely sure if I can make it.
Yeah.
But Sadia from Hasselt will surely, she will be a little bit later. She already told me she cannot be there from 1 o'clock, but from 3 o'clock anyway.
Yeah, but I think if we go through the topics and the expectations that we have, I think these aspects will become much clearer. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I also see a question in the chat that was not answered yet. So the question is a bit more on what we mean by multi-institutional partnership. And the question is, do we refer to more more institutions in the partner countries, or more institutions in Flanders or in Belgium? And I think the answer is both. So it can be several institutions in one or more partner countries. But we also want to emphasize that also in Flanders, we really encourage, but also in the partner countries, to maybe have a mixture of universities and universities of applied science and arts, particularly because we also focus on the translation into practice. And so practical or technical skills are very valuable at this stage. So the answer is both. Then I will give the floor to Tracy, and then we will move forward. But at the end, there is more room for questions. Tracy, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Greetings, colleagues. This is really an amazing initiative with all its emphasis on collaboration, co-creation, transdisciplinarity, as I understand it, across different institutional types and different actors. We all talk about this quite a lot now. Many of us are very keen on it. We don't really know how to do it very well. And so I'm wondering if you guys have thought about or have something in place that's going to provide support to what are really some serious complexities about managing this kind of collaborative, co-creative work. Thank you so much.
Hi, Tracy. A good question. I'm not sure whether I have the answer to it. We have, of course, our formats and ways of working. That being said, these 3 projects will also be a journey. As I mentioned, we have the terms of reference. We have some ideas about where we would like to go, but the whole idea is together with the people motivated to join this initiative, that we co-create this agenda together and further modus operandi. I mean, a part of it is of course already described in the call itself, but we will co-construct it together. Yeah, and we will be there all along the way to collaborate with you. Okay, Laura. We go to the next part.
Yes, thank you. So there's more room afterwards, but first Jan will go more into depth in the 3 teams.
Thank you, Laura and Koen and all of you for the questions. So with regards to the teams, as Koen has already mentioned, these are a starting point. So important to know is that both the vision that we formulated and the examples in the 3 pillars that I will show you now in terms of concrete actions that you could do, they are all examples. So it's really up to the co-creation of the teams. And indeed, Tracy, we will be with you along the way to co-create this and to see what has to be selected, because it's too broad now, of course. We are well aware that these terms of reference are very comprehensive. So let's first dive into diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, it's well known, of course, that diversity actually increases performance of an organization, but that it's really about the doing of diversity and not only about making the policies, but also implementing the policies into practice and to make diversity and equity a real norm and not just something we all say, but a norm as an organization and for all of our projects, then of course which are funded afterwards. Of course, there are interconnected topics to diversity, equity, and inclusion, such as decolonization, digital diversity, digital equity. All these kind of topics are also interconnected and integrated into this topic. And finally, as setting the scene for this topic, of course, the mention that we have as Vleruos already a gender policy. We have some policies on leaving no one behind. And the idea, of course, in this, let's say in this working, it is the group that would constitute the Accelerate program, is to work further to build further on these existing policies. Examples of what we could do. So of course, again, you know, Laura presented it already to you, have the 3 pillars to be repeated in every project: a policy development, a policy implementation, and a capacity building and networking part. In the policy development, we could think about, as I said earlier, an updated policy on diversity, equity, and inclusion for Vleruos, an associated action plan together with that policy, and of course, stock taking of existing policies, whether it's our own, but also, of course, elsewhere. What are the partner institutions doing? What are the Flemish universities doing? What are the governments also doing in terms of increasing diversity within higher education, both in the partner countries as well as in Belgium or Europe? So these are all important things to take into account, and those could all go into the pillar of policy developments. And then in terms of policy implementation, we could think about a series of good practices, a series of impact stories, maybe a checklist if it's useful on diversity, equity, and inclusion for the projects to ensure that it's included. And of course, enhance our leave no one behind implementation at Vleruos and within the community. And then the capacity building and networking. There could be 3 parts. Of course, a train-the-trainer program would probably be one of the outcomes that would then target both, or could then target both individuals at the individual level of collaborators, such as the ICOs, the GEO, the collaborators in our projects, the management teams in the partner universities, and then the institutional level, where then again, you target more the management level and really at the institutional level. And then, of course, it's important to share learnings in a network. So it's also really expected that all these projects, which will become networks in the future, that they share the learnings throughout networking activities, networking events, etc. How they are organized, this is up to the project teams. And then, of course, and this was already mentioned a few times, involve actors outside of academia. It's about the impact, of course, and then again, maybe the link towards the national policies. If there could be a link, as Jean-Pierre asked before, it could very well be that part of the policies that we think about could influence in the long run, of course, national policies, for instance, on higher education. So that's also important. And of course, civil society actors are very crucial there as well, to involve them wherever possible. So that is with regards to the first team. The second one, uptake, use, and impact. Well, it's about creating the conditions for impact in the end, of course. And uptake and use and impact is like a schematic. It goes first uptake, which is the first step, let's say. Then people get to use the outcomes of research and higher education. And in the end, it will have an impact on society. And that's what we all want to achieve, of course. Vliroos has already a nice uptake brochure on the website, which you can already consult, and of course, on which we will build this network also further within Accelerate. It's about research and innovation impact, but it's also about education impact. So both are targeted with this team. Then again, the three pillars, as I mentioned before, so I'm not going to repeat them. On policy developments, what could that be in uptake, use, and impact? It could be a policy note on the strategies to take for uptake, use, and impact at Vliroos level, but also at university level. It could be a sharing university and University of Applied Science and Arts level, I have to say. It could also be a sharing of information. So certain UASA, certain universities might already have their policies in place, others not. So it can be a sharing of these policies and then in the end make a policy note out of it. And of course, link that to monitoring and evaluation frameworks, both within Vliroos as well as beyond. And then concretely in policy implementation, what could that be? It could mean an evidence-based toolbox, building further on the uptake brochure, but also really ensuring there are some evidence-based, very concrete tools available for project promoters with a special attention and focus on applied research and education as well. And of course, there could be policy advice on the different formats and the different procedures that Vliroos is using to ensure that there is a better impact on society within all our types of programs that you probably know of. And then, of course, in the end, also very important, and again, a part of the questions before, it's also important to give some advice to the higher education and science institutions that are part of the network, and that will mean both in the partner countries as well as in Flanders, of course. And then the capacity building and the networking, I'm not going to repeat myself. It's actually the same type of logic as I have mentioned in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So train the trainer programs, networking, and involve actors outside of academia. Then the last topic on higher education management. Well, it is known that there is some catching up to do in terms of skills at the higher education institutions, both in Flanders as well as in the partner countries. The labor markets ask certain skills, and some higher education institutions do not have those sufficiently in their programs. It's also practice-oriented skills that are asked for, of course, and there are transversal practice-oriented skills that are to be implemented both in education, but also, and that is important in this topic, of course, it's called like that, also at the management level of both universities as well as universities of applied science and arts. So that is important, that it's not only targeting the skills within the education programs, but also, and maybe even mainly, these skills availability within the management of the higher education institutions to support the higher education institutions in the network, both in Flanders as well as in the partner countries, to better manage in the end, both education as well as research and innovation. Few of the topics that could be part of the program, but of course are then open for discussion. Data management is one of the topics that could come up within this team. We could also talk about effective research skills, such as open science, research integrity, and others. Skills on project development and project management, writing of projects, developing projects. These are topics that often come back as well in Vlieg UOS projects, or which are asked for by participants. And then, of course, we could also focus on the digital skills and the pedagogy that is needed to bring these skills to both the management as well as the students. What this could then mean in terms of policy development, implementation, and capacity building and networking would then be for policy development, policies based on chosen skills. So few of those skill sets will be chosen by the teams, and then policies based on those can be developed. It can, for instance, be policies on open science, can be policies on research integrity, can be a digital skills framework, or an adoption of a digital skills framework that's already existing within both partner institutions as well as Vlieg UOS, as well as eventually maybe at national levels. Then the policy implementation, what could it be? Again, it could be a toolbox, very specific, could be videos, could be an online website, it can be brochures. Those things are all open to the best practices that you know of and that you will bring to the team, let's say. There again, things like advice and support are important in all these topics. If you take the example of open science, could be advice and support in negotiations about open science publishing. How do you deal with this? Digital skills could be thinking about, okay, how will you now implement concretely a digital skills program towards management of a partner institution? And of course, it's about applied and transferable skills again here as well. And then the capacity building and networking, again, is the same. Train the trainer, networking, involve actors outside of academia. To finalize my part and then open up again for questioning, again, matchmaking next week, Thursday afternoon here in Brussels. For the moment, still possible to join. The subscriptions will be open until tomorrow evening, so you can still subscribe. Tomorrow evening, we will close them. The session will be in let's say 3 parts. The first part will be a deep dive on more the core group and the consortium setup. How will it go? We have already explained to you now through Laura the first part, and then we will go deeper into that. And then, of course, into the teams, which is then more the topic of this matchmaking. And then there will be a breakout brainstorming, which will be longer, 2 hours 30 per team. It seems long, but we will ensure that within these teams, there is really different parts. There will be a nice icebreaker. There will be a context sharing, an expertise sharing. Of course, then every group per team will think a little bit about, okay, what are the sub-teams that we could focus on, given these broad terms of reference, what could be interesting, both for the partner countries as well as for the Flemish institutions and for the Vlieg UOS community, take into account all these different perspectives. And then when a few of the sub-teams are chosen, we will ask the participants to have a freewheel brainstorming about each pillar already within one of these sub-teams, or maybe several, depending on the time. What could you concretely do now in these 3 sub-teams, and how would you go about it? Of course, this is a first brainstorming. It is not meant to be already all-encompassing. It's really a start of a reflection that will happen throughout the summer until the deadline of 1st October, of course. And then most important, I said 3 parts. These are 2. The third part, of course, is a nice reception together to get to know each other better, reconnect with old friends, and share our thoughts and ideas about this exciting new opportunity. Well, that was it for us, actually. I have 2 things still to do. The first one is to ask you to fill in the short survey, and we will again post in the chat the URL for those who like just to click on the chat. But in the meantime, we open again as well the floor for questioning, because there might still be questions left from the first session, the first part of the Q&A, and there might be new questions about the teams and the matchmaking that are still unanswered for. So the floor is yours again, I would say. For those, I see that time has already advanced. For those that have to leave us, thank you for being here, but please fill in very quickly still the form, the survey that would help us again prepare for the matchmaking and the further process. And it's already part of the answer to Tracy's question on how will we support the process. Well, it's also through asking your input, of course, and to taking this into account for the next steps. So same process as before. If you have a question that you would like to raise, please raise your hand, and I will ask the help of my colleagues Laura and Koen, who have looked at the chat for maybe interesting questions from the chat to pick up. See no hands at the time, so Koen, Laura, I don't know whether there are interesting things in the chat to follow up.
No, there are no urgent questions that are left unanswered, I believe. By the way, at the end, after this session today, we will make available the PowerPoint,
Yes.
the recording, and we
video.
will also look at all the questions in the chat and try to list the most important questions and answers afterwards. And here maybe I should look at my colleague Laura, but I saw one question like how will I know who to contact? If I'm not mistaken, you have all given approval for sharing your contact data with the participants of this session. So at a later stage, or is that the participants of the matchmaking?
That's
Yeah.
an important point, by the way,
Yeah.
indeed, for those who want to, for which we can share. It's the first question on the survey that we just shared. So
Okay,
please
yeah.
answer this survey. If you click yes there, then we are okay with GDPR and we can share your contact information. So
Yeah.
please click
So
on this.
even if you cannot join, but you're interested, we welcome you to know so that we have an overview of everyone interested. And then we're in line with all the privacy legislation to indeed exchange the contact. So even if you cannot make it, please let us know that you're interested.
Yes, I'm filling the survey. Okay, I have some live questions. That's always nice. Nicolene was first, so I will give you the floor. You can unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Thank you so very much. I'm very sorry I joined very, very late, like the last 5 minutes. I'm Nicolene Waze. I'm joining from Cameroon. And I just want to know if coming from Cameroon, I can be part of the project. Since I didn't follow the project, just want to know if I can be part of the project so that I can continue following. Thank you.
Yes.
Hello.
Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah. Hello, Nicolene. So yes, for these project types, the 17 partner countries and in addition the 12 scholarship countries are eligible. And since Cameroon is one of the scholarship countries, you are eligible to join as well. You and your institution.
So welcome.
Thank
Bienvenue.
you so very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Constanza.
Yeah, hello. Thanks a lot for the presentation. Interesting call. I was wondering what will happen with potential South partners that cannot make it to the matchmaking. Something was said. I discussed with a few of them, but there was interest, but sometimes the timing doesn't work.
I think that's a very good question, Constanza. What we will do is we will see how the matchmaking will go next week, of course. We will also look already a little bit at the subscriptions. Looking at that, and your question confirms it, we see that there is a lot of interest, with which we are very happy. So what we will probably do is to do another online matchmaking combined then partner institutions with Flemish institutions in the weeks after the physical matchmaking, probably team-based, but how we will exactly organize it is not yet fully set up. But the idea would probably be to do an online matchmaking per team where we can really have a brainstorming. It might not be another explanation. We might then, for the online meetings, really focus on the online brainstorming. So really per team, okay, let's do the brainstorming, maybe take what has been brainstormed already next week, translate that a little bit, and then online go further in this brainstorming. But it is to be confirmed. It will probably be confirmed next week, Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I don't know, Constanza, that's a new hand or an old hand?
Oh,
Okay,
it's all good.
yes, perfect, thank you. Okay, are there any other questions? I haven't looked at the chat at the moment, but of course, feel free. Francesca, go ahead.
Okay, afternoon. I'm Francesca from Zimbabwe. I came in a bit late, so I'm looking forward to reviewing everything that you gave out. So my question was, like in my country so far, we don't have like any projects that have been running between Zimbabwe and Villeros. So on the part of the Flemish promoter, I'd asked like, how do I know like which promoter to approach? Because we don't have a background at all.
Mhm.
Yes.
It's a good question. Maybe first eligibility, Laura, Zimbabwe.
Yes, it's one of the
Okay.
scholarship countries, which also explains why there are no projects running. But I think it aligns maybe with the question raised earlier. So if you're after this call or after this information session and you went through the call and you're still interested, feel free to fill out the registration form. So we have your contacts, we know you're interested, and then we can exchange information amongst everyone who's interested, and you can make direct contact.
We will pick this up through the teams that you're interested in. Probably in the beginning, we will communicate to all, and then we will start communicating by the teams. And I think your question, and thank you very much for that, Francisca, is also reinforcing Constanza's point that we really need some kind of an online matchmaking as well, somewhere in the month of June. So most probably we will organize this by team in the month of June, and please join us online so that you can also meet interesting Flemish partners that would want to start collaborating. And of course, maybe good to know, this is a two-step approach. So the first step has been explained, but good to repeat, maybe first step is this core group work where it will be let's say the promoters, if you want to call it still like that, but it's the people who really want to start to take on the subject and lead it. But then afterwards, in the next stage, there will be a consortium that will be formed. So it's also still possible, even if you don't show now, between now and 1st of October, very explicitly, these core groups that will be formed, these 5, 6, I don't know how many people per team, they will have very explicitly the goal, let's say, or the request from our side to build broader consortium. So it's also still possible at that point in time to look at, okay, what can be done in Zimbabwe? You can still join at that point in time during the consortium building. So it's really a process that will take place, and it will not be if you now, for instance, miss the next couple of weeks and you're not in the core group, that doesn't mean you cannot participate. There will still be, this is really this co-creation pathway. There will really be an effort being made. It will be asked for by us to all the core groups to really build this consortia going forward, and that will then take place in November, December, even January 2025. Then it's the time for the organizations to build the consortia and further on. I hope that answers.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
In the chat there is a question, but Mohammed, correct me if I'm wrong. You're asking for the difference between the teams and an accelerate project, because it's true that both have a two-stage procedure, but for teams, even in the second stage, there is a selection of the project. So some projects might be selected for in the second stage, others might not. Whereas for Accelerate, the ones that are selected in the concept node phase, are to continue, but then to further develop their projects more in detail in exchange with Vleruos. So that's one difference. But the main difference is also that Teams is quite open. Everyone is open to make their own proposal with their own team and focus and subject. Whereas here we have already determined the 3 teams, and the aim is to write a proposal based on the team and the terms of reference. So that's quite a big difference there.
Indeed.
I hope I answered your question, but if not, feel free to.
Thank you very much, Laura. I will do a last call for someone who has a last-minute question who wants to ask it in the live part. If not, in the next 10-15 seconds, we will finalize here and here. We are 15 minutes over time, but I see there are still a lot of participants, which means that there is a lot of interest. So we are very happy, as Koen and Laura already mentioned, and myself as well, to launch this new program. We will make available the slideshow and the recording of the session on our website very soon, normally by tomorrow. And the links also will remain open. So even the link on for the last survey, the short survey for interest will remain open. So we can keep in touch and start communicating with all of you and start this co-creation pathway and together with you. We will also, for those who still subscribed to next week's live matchmaking here in Brussels on Thursday, we will still send out an email to you at the latest by Monday, confirming your participation. Thank you, everyone. We will close here and have a very nice afternoon, and hope to see you soon. Looking forward to collaborating with all of you.